And now from our studios in downtown Winnipeg, it's time for 107 Live.
This weekend at the Centennial Concert Hall, Bulgarian-born American violinist Bella Hristova makes her much-anticipated return to Winnipeg, performing in Bach, Mendelssohn, and Schumann, favorite melodies. Bella has joined me in the Diamond Lane for a 107 Live performance and conversation ahead of the show. Live in the Diamond Lane, you just heard the playing of Bella Hristova. Bella, I'm grinning from ear to ear. That was like unabashed virtuosity. What did we just hear?
You just heard a caprice by a Bulgarian composer, Peter Hristov, and it's called Rechenica, which is a type of Bulgarian dance.
Well, I mean, you can hear the dancing aspect in that music. I mean, we were chatting before we just went on the air about, I'm of Ukrainian heritage, and so it sounds so familiar, that unmistakable Eastern European flavor and just those dancing, frenetic energies. It's got to be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, for sure it is, and it's these mixed meters that I don't even know how to dance to them. But people do know. There are people whose life is performing these dances.
Oh, and they're just a ton of fun to listen to, and I imagine to watch as well. So let's go back to the beginning. So you were born in Bulgaria to musical parents. Who or what made you pick up the violin?
It was actually my mother. My father was a composer, and my mom was a choral conductor, and she played piano. So we had a piano at home, and I loved the piano. Yeah. It's to this day my favorite instrument to listen to. So I wanted to play the piano. But my mom's dream was that she would have a violinist daughter, a concert violinist daughter, no less.
Wow, talk about living up to expectation.
That's right. So from age 6, I started playing violin with that thought kind of drilled into my mind. This is what you're going to do.
I mean, that's a really remarkable story, and that this kind of destiny kind of coming to fruition. From there, at 13, you made the move to America on your own. That's something I can't even fathom. I mean, talk about a formative experience.
Yeah, that was. I moved to the States. I lived with a few different host families for a period of time. It was a difficult move, and it was a difficult time. But then when I was 17, I went to the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, where I studied with Ida Kavafian.
Yeah.
and later on at Indiana University with Jamie Laredo. And those two violinists are some of my biggest inspirations and musical heroes.
Well,
And
no doubt. And I mean, just even mentioning Curtis, I mean, that has to make it worthwhile in its own right. One of the most competitive institutions that you can get into. And then from there to go to Indiana, right?
Right.
And to study with Jamie Laredo. From there, I mean, you're awarded prestigious grants, won a handful of international competitions. Thinking back, though, to this idea that your mom had when you were 6, is this what you envisioned when you left Bulgaria?
Maybe. I was so young.
Yeah.
I was very excited to just leave. I think both my mom and I knew that there would be more opportunities for me in the States or just out of Bulgaria, because a lot of the younger musicians my age would end up leaving maybe for college. I think I left a few years earlier than other ones did, but we kind of knew that eventually I would go away for further training. And so I was just excited to go. I don't know if then I knew that this is what I would be doing. In a way, over all those years, I think the violin has chosen me, because I can't pinpoint to a time when I said, oh, I love this. I'm doing this for me. It just really sort of evolved into that.
Really?
From her dream to my dream.
Oh, that's really a remarkable story when you think about it. I mean, you've established yourself as this soloist, chamber musician, recitalist, and I've got here in the studio with me a copy of your album, Bella Unaccompanied. Looking at your discography thus far, you've chosen to feature solo violin, as compared to some perhaps chamber music or the like. What about the solo violin just kind of resonates with you?
That's right. Well, and I do have a new CD coming out.
Yeah, the Beethoven,
this year.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Beethoven sonatas for violin, piano, or piano and violin, like
Right.
they're marked.
Yep.
But, I think it's because I love the piano so much that I gravitate towards unaccompanied violin music. I love the Bach sonatas and partitas. Other composers have written music, many other composers, for solo violin too. I think it's a daunting undertaking for many composers to do that. But there's some great works out there for an accompanied violin. And I enjoy playing these programs, but they're very challenging and draining.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at this album, music of Corleano, and like you mentioned, the music of Bach, and of course there's music there of Nathan Milstein, the violinist turned kind of quasi-composer, doing his thing with the Paganiniana. I mean, they're wizardry pieces, for lack of a better term. Can we chat a little bit about your violin, the one that you have here?
Yes.
What can you tell us about it?
The violin that I have with me is a 1655 Niccolo Amati instrument made in Cremona, Italy.
Wow.
It's been on loan to me for many years now, and I feel very fortunate to be playing on it.
Well, when you talk about growing into this role of a concert performer, an internationally recognized violinist, has the instrument kind of grown with you in that way? I mean, there's a lot of I don't know if baggage is the right word, but I mean, it was around before Bach was around, right? So it's been around.
30 years before Bach was born, which is crazy.
Yeah, it really
just crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess I have grown with it. It's become a part of my voice. That's not to say that I feel like without it I couldn't still have a voice, but I do. I know it so well that it feels like it's a part of me.
Oh, I mean, it just seems like a fascinating story, and it's so cool. I know instrumentalists are always particular about that, and I've had the chance to chat with other violinists, and some, swear by these past masters. Amati, did he teach Stradivarius?
Well, that's the legend, supposedly, and I thought that was true too, but actually the maker, Simon Zygmuntovich, says that that's not true.
Okay, so it's not true.
So he might know, know a thing or two.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay.
That Stradivarius admired Amati's violins, and he wanted to be. It's sort of like he studied them on his own time, but it was never official.
Oh, that's a totally cool story.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fascinating. So you're back here in Winnipeg, performing as a soloist. I mean, we're talking about your solo violin music, but now you're a soloist with orchestra. I mean, apart from the obvious, how does it differ for you as a performer?
Oh, I enjoy both. I enjoy being on stage with others, and with a whole orchestra. Really, there's nothing quite like it. It's very exciting. It's very special. Just to hear this force behind you and to be all playing together. it's really one of a kind.
Yeah.
I love playing with orchestra.
Oh, no doubt. You were last here in Winnipeg, I think 3 years ago, was it?
It was 2 years.
Was
I
it
think
two?
it was 2 years ago.
It's 2019. It was a few years. It was the
17.
Brook, right?
It was the Brook G minor.
Oh, yeah. And so, and now I've noticed looking on your website that you're back in Winnipeg. Your first stop in 2019?
Yes.
Oh, well, talk
It was
about
great.
kicking off the year in exciting fashion. We're lucky to have you here. The program is titled Bach, Mendelssohn, Schumann, and Favorite Melodies. I know you don't get to name the programs, but
I do not.
but is the Mendelssohn one of your favorite melodies?
Yes, of course, and I think it's one of the most favorite violin concerti there are. It's probably the concerto that I've played the most. Is just so beloved, and all the melodies they're just stellar. There's no other way to describe them. It's a piece that makes you feel very happy playing and listening to, and just all the feels.
Yeah, it really does have all the feels, though. That's the best way to put it, because I mean, it's not just this happy, capricious Mendelssohn too. I mean, it has moments of drama. It has this haunting melody right at the beginning.
A lot of drama, passion, beauty, excitement, sparkle.
I feel like the only way to describe it now, whenever I introduce it, I'm going to call it all the feels now.
Feels.
It's the music of Felix Mendelssohn. So, I mean, you mentioned it's one of the mainstays in the repertoire. This is one you've performed many a time. How do you go about kind of preparing something, A, that you've done a handful of times, but B, being one of the mainstays in the repertoire? How do you approach it to give it your own flavor?
It's a good question. Every time I play it, I try to look for something different. I'm always practicing with the music at home, and I always see little different markings that maybe I've missed before, like a small crescendo here or there. And it's always a different performance because you're working with a different orchestra, a different conductor. So in that way, it's always fresh and new. So I enjoy that too.
Well, I think audiences are going to enjoy it. Bella, thanks so much for coming by Classic 107. It's such a pleasure to have you here and back in Winnipeg.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So you can see Bella Hristova performing all the feels, the music of Felix Mendelssohn, in a program Bach, Mendelssohn, Schumann, Favorite Melodies with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, led by Maestro Daniel Reiskin. 2 performances, Friday, January 11th, and Saturday, January 12th at 8 p.m. For more information, visit wso.ca.
From our studios in downtown Winnipeg, you've been listening to 107 Live, Classic 107's Intimate Concert Series, the soundtrack for your life.